Canada's just gone downhill. Now, if that sentence doesn't resonate with you, if you don't feel that in your gut, then congratulations. You're likely probably one of the very few who are rich enough for it to not affect you. Maybe you have enough money somewhere else, or maybe you are insulated from the daily grind. But the majority of Canadians, that sentence is our reality. It's the feeling of your stomach tightening when you get to the checkout line. It's the despair of realizing you might never come to own a home in the country you were born in. It's the constant grinding anxiety of just trying to get by. And we're told a lot of stories about why this is happening. We're told it's global inflation. We're told it's the housing bubble. We're told it's the need for transition to a green economy. We're even told that we have to sacrifice more than we already have. But what if I told you the core of this problem is a giant, self defeating paradox? What if I told you our government's plan for a bright, clean, green, renewable future is the very thing preventing us from building anything at all? Today, we're going to talk about the uncomfortable truth. We're going to look at the hard data and connect the dots between our cost of living crisis, our crumbling infrastructure, and an energy policy that is setting us up for failure. And I'm going to show you why. If we want to build anything, including our green future, we need oil. We need to get our hands dirty before we can get them clean. And I'm sick of half our country not caring and not understanding that simple fact. Oil is gold. So, that feeling of going downhill, it's not just a feeling, it's a fact, backed by the numbers. Let's start with the big picture. Nation's living standard is often measured by what's called GDP per capita. Think of it as the size of the economic pie divided by the number of people. And if you add more of those people, that economic pie actually gets bigger. So that's what the government has been currently doing. They have been adding people to grow that economic pie. But in reality, Canada has a way of growing that economic pie without the people. 2014 and 2024, the American pie grew by over 20%. The Canadian pie, it grew by a pathetic 3.2%. That means the average American is now living in an economy that's 40 times more prosperous than ours. We're falling behind, and we're falling behind fast. This isn't just some abstract number either. Real world consequences. It's why our wages keep on feeling like they're stuck in the mud. The OECD, a group of wealthy countries, found that Canada had the worst labor productivity drop in the entire organization in 2023. We're working just as hard, but producing less. And when you produce less, you can't earn more. It's that simple. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, housing. It's the Canadian dream that's turned into a nightmare. The government owned housing agency says we need 3.5 million extra homes by 2030 to make things affordable again. And last year, BCH only made 9 houses. We're not building. In fact, we're building less. Housing starts for single family homes are at 30-year low. And the results, prices are more than double in less than a decade. The average rent in this country is climbing at the fastest rate ever recorded. And for anybody looking for a new place, rent shot up over 18% in a single year. How is anybody supposed to keep up with that? And it's not just housing, it's everything. The cost of food has become so unbearable that the food banks are seeing highest usage in Canadian history. We're talking about nearly 2.2 million visits in a single month. This isn't a story of people unemployed. This is a story about working Canadians, people with full-time jobs, with high salaries, who simply cannot afford to put food on the table. Your paycheck is shrinking. Even if you got a raise, inflation has ate at it all, and then some. Your purchasing power, your money can actually buy, has gone down. Poorer today than you were a few years ago. Political. That's not a political statement. That's a statistical fact. And people say Canada is going downhill. This is what they mean. It's a squeeze. It's the feeling of being trapped, of working harder and harder and just falling further and further behind. It's happening because the very foundation of our economy is crumbling. And that brings us to our next critical piece of the puzzle, our infrastructure. If the economy is the engine of the country, then the infrastructure is the chassis. It's the roads, the bridges, the water pipes, the power grids that everything runs on. In Canada, the government's own data agency dropped a bombshell in 2024. It calculated the cost to replace just the roads and water infrastructure in the poor to very poor condition. That number being $356 billion. Just to fix what we have that's breaking down cost us over $300 billion. That's not the cost to upgrade. That's just to fix the stuff that's already falling apart. We have a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure deficit, and it's getting worse every year. This isn't an inconvenience. It's a direct drag on our economy. It slows down the transportation of goods, it makes our businesses less efficient, and it costs all the money. Look at the projects in Toronto. They take 3 to 7 years. So we have this massive infrastructure problem. We also have a massive housing crisis problem. And we have an ambitious plan to build a green energy grid. But what do all three of these things have in common? They all require a massive amount of construction. And what does construction require? This. Or more accurately, the real life. 50-ton version of this. And here's the simple, unavoidable, and deeply inconvenient truth that our leaders seem to be fucking ignoring. Every single industrial vehicle that builds infrastructure on the planet runs on oil. There is not a single one that runs on electricity. Seriously, think about it. How do you plan on building infrastructure needed for this renewable energy without going and building the oil? The excavators that dig the foundations of our wind turbines, they take diesel. The cranes that lift the blades into place, diesel. The truck that hauls the concrete and steel, diesel. The asphalt machines that pave the roads to the solar farms, diesel. Even the materials themselves are products of fossil fuels. A single wind turbine can contain 900 tons of steel and 2,500 tons of concrete. The energy required to produce that steel and concrete comes from burning fossil fuels. Physical and chemical reality. So we're caught in a paradox. We want to build this green future, but we're actively trying to shut down the only industry that can power the construction of that future. It's like trying to build a house but refusing to buy a hammer. It makes no fucking sense. We need to use that dirty energy for a few more years in order to build that renewable grid, that renewable system. And that's the important part, the infrastructure. We don't have the ability to have the renewable energy because we refuse to use the tools we already have. And this brings us to the heart of the problem. Policies that are actively preventing us from building anything at all. So if we need our energy sector to build our future, why are we actively trying to kill it? This is where the story of economic realities and political ideology make no fucking sense. And it starts with a piece of legislation that the bill that critics have called the No More Pipelines Bill. Officially, it's called the Impact Assessment Act. And what it does is it actually makes a process for approving any major project in Canada inevitably long and complicated and unpredictable. It introduced vague criteria like social impacts and climate change considerations that can be used to delay or kill a project for any reason at all. And Canada is now the worst place in the developed world to try and build something. It takes 3 times longer to get a construction permit than in the US, and it can take up to 20 years to get a mine approved. We literally live in one of the most resource rich countries on the planet, and we're not allowed to dig for them. This has created scarce investment, big time. Since 2015, it is estimated that $670 billion in energy projects have been canceled or fled from our country. Think about that. That's money that could have created tens of thousands of high paying jobs. That tax revenue could have been funding our schools and our hospitals. And that's the economic engine we need to pull ourselves out of this slump. And we just got to let it drive away. We canceled the energy pipeline east, which would have brought Canadian oil to our own East Coast and to our European markets. And instead, we're importing them from fucking Australia that did this 10 years ago. Like, Australia actually did this. So, like, why are we not looking to do that? And that's why I bring this up now, is because we just brought in oil to our east from Australia. It makes no sense when we could have had that pipeline out this way. All I'm saying here is we have a regulatory nightmare. We have carbon tax, we have climate issues, green policies. And the idea of pricing pollution might sound good in university classrooms, but in the real world, it's just another tax that a population that is already struggling to get by needs to pay. It makes it more expensive to transport food, heat to your home, to run a small business, to build anything. Our government's own parliamentary budget officer has confirmed that most families, it's cost more than the rebates you get back. This combination of regulatory gridlock and punitive taxes has created a climate of hostility towards the very industry we need right now. And it's all based on the fundamental contradiction that the government wants net zero electricity by 2035. But the cost to do that is an estimated $1.7 trillion. Where are we supposed to get that money from? If we're actively strangling our golden goose, the oil and the gas sector, biggest to our national wealth, how do we plan on paying for the most expensive infrastructure project in Canadian history? It's a fucking fantasy. It's a policy built on wishful thinking, not engineering, economics, and so where do we go from here? Are we all doomed to get poorer for this country? No. The path forward is quite fucking simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. It requires us to stop thinking in terms of ideology and start thinking in terms of reality. And the reality requires us to build on our fucking strengths, our goddamn oil. First, we need to unleash our economic engine. That means radically overhauling our regulatory systems. We need to make it fast, predictable, and efficient to get things built in this country again. We need to send a message to the world that Canada is open for business. Second, we need to embrace the bridge fuel strategy. We need to explicitly recognize that oil and gas are not the enemy. They are a bridge to our renewable future. Look at Norway. They use the revenue from their oil and gas sector to build a massive sovereign wealth fund that is now investing heavily in green energy. They didn't get rich by pretending their greatest asset didn't exist. They got rich by using it wisely. We need to do the same. We should be using our profits from our energy sector to fund massive nation building infrastructure. And third, we need to focus on building capacity. We have a critical shortage of skilled trades workers who actually build things. We need to invest in our people. We need to make it attractive for them to become a welder, an electrician, a pipe. And on top of that, we need to make it attractive to start their own businesses. These are the nation builders of the 21st century, and we need hundreds of thousands of them. This isn't about choosing an economy over the environment. False choice. This is about using our economic strength to achieve our environmental goals. That's being smart, pragmatic, and realistic. Like, honestly, I am so for climate change and fixing it all. But 5 to 10 years of us getting our hands fucking dirty and pumping out CO2 like crazy is going to give us 100 years of tech that's going to clean that up and fix the fucking problem. We can't build a new Canada by dismantling our foundation. We can't build a green future by refusing to use the only tools we have that can get the job done. The frustration you all feel is real. The decline is real, but it's not irreversible. We have the resources. We have the people. We have the ingenuity to turn this ship around. But it starts with admitting the truth. It starts with building. And to build, we need oil.